was already full before the lights dimmed. Rows of chairs faced the stage, and quiet conversations floated through the air. Some people were there out of curiosity, others because a friend had invited them, and a few because they had nothing else to do that evening. It was not meant to be a big night, just another local event where ordinary people came to watch others try something brave. Behind the stage, she stood still, listening to the sound of the crowd. Every laugh and cough felt louder than it really was. Her hands were cold, even though the room was warm. She kept rubbing her palms together, hoping no one would notice how nervous she felt. Her heart beat fast, like it was trying to warn her that it was not too late to leave. She had thought about walking away many times before this moment. Earlier that day, she almost did not come at all. She told herself she was not ready, that she did not belong on a stage like this. People like her usually watched from the back, hidden in the dark, clapping for others who were more confident. But something inside her pushed her forward. It was not confidence. It was more like a quiet voice that said, "If not now, then when?" She did not fully believe in herself, but she believed even less in the idea of going home and wondering forever what might have happened. When her turn was called, she took a deep breath that did not feel deep enough. Her feet felt heavy as she walked toward the light. The moment she stepped onto the stage, the room seemed to grow larger. The ceiling felt higher. The faces in the crowd blurred together into one large presence watching her every move. She could feel their eyes on her. Some people leaned forward with interest. Others crossed their arms, waiting to be impressed or disappointed. A few whispered to each other, trying to guess what would happen next. She stood in the center of the stage, unsure where to look. Her shoulders were tense. Her posture showed everything she was feeling. Even those sitting far away could tell she was nervous. It was written in the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other, in the way her fingers kept moving as if they were looking for something to hold. The silence stretched longer than she expected. It felt uncomfortable, like the pause before a storm. She swallowed and tried to steady her breathing. Her thoughts raced. What if I mess up? What if they laugh? What if I freeze and can't move at all? These thoughts came fast, one after another, leaving little room for hope. She remembered other moments in her life when fear had stopped her. Times she chose the safe path instead of the honest one. Times she stayed quiet when she wanted to speak. Each memory added weight to the moment she was standing in now. From the crowd, reactions began to form. Some people felt sympathy. They recognized that fear because they had felt it themselves at some point. Others felt doubt. They wondered why she was there if she looked so unsure. A few even felt impatient, hoping the next act would be more exciting. She noticed none of their exact thoughts, but she felt the energy. It pressed against her chest and made her breathing shallow. The microphone in front of her looked intimidating, like a test she was not prepared for. Somewhere in the back of the room, a quiet movement caught her attention. She did not turn her head fully, but she sensed someone stepping closer to the edge of the stage. This person did not rush or draw attention. The movement was calm and steady. The audience noticed it too. A few heads turned. A few whispers began again. It was clear that someone else was about to be part of this moment. She felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. Part of her wondered if this person was there to help her or replace her. Another part feared that things were about to become even more complicated. She took another breath, this one slightly steadier than the last. She reminded herself why she came. Not to be perfect. Not to impress everyone. But to face the fear she had been carrying for far too long. Her eyes finally lifted from the floor and met the crowd. For a brief second, she saw something unexpected. Not judgment, not anger, but curiosity. People were waiting. They wanted to see what would happen next. That realization did not remove her fear, but it softened it. Fear no longer felt like an enemy trying to stop her. It felt like a signal that something important was happening. She adjusted her stance and let her arms rest by her sides. The shaking in her hands had not fully stopped, but it was less noticeable now. Her heart still raced, but it no longer felt like it would burst. The quiet person near the stage stepped closer into the light. He did not speak yet. He did not make any big gestures. His presence alone seemed to change the air in the room. It was subtle but real. The crowd leaned in again, sensing that the moment they had been waiting for was about to begin. She stood there, nervous but still standing. She had not run. She had not given up. That alone felt like a small victory. At that moment, no one knew what was coming next. Not the audience. Not the people running the event. Not even her. But everyone could feel it. Something was about to happen. And once it did, nothing would feel the same again. The silence after those first few seconds felt heavier than before. It was no longer just about her standing on the stage. Now it was about waiting. The kind of waiting that makes people hold their breath without realizing it. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. It was loud and steady, like a drum marking time. She wondered if the people closest to the stage could hear it too. Her eyes moved across the crowd again, this time slower. Faces came into focus. Some looked kind. Some looked unsure. A few looked distracted, already losing patience. The person who had stepped closer now stood just a little behind her. Close enough for her to sense his presence, but not close enough to steal attention. He stayed quiet. That silence felt intentional, like he was giving her space instead of taking it. Her mind filled with questions. Why was he here? Was this planned? Had someone noticed how nervous she was and decided to help? Or was this part of the act that she did not fully understand? She wanted to turn around and ask, but fear kept her facing forward. Turning away from the crowd felt like admitting weakness. So she stayed still, eyes forward, shoulders tight. The crowd's mood shifted again. The whispers faded, replaced by a strange mix of curiosity and doubt. People sensed that this pause meant something. It was not an accident. It was a moment being stretched on purpose. She thought about her life outside this room, about the days that felt the same one after another, about how often she chose comfort over courage. Standing here now felt different. Uncomfortable, yes. Terrifying, even. But also alive. She remembered the hours she spent preparing for this moment. Late nights replaying the plan in her head. Practicing alone. Imagining an empty room instead of a crowd. None of that preparation included this silence or this unexpected presence beside her. Her breathing slowly began to calm. Not because she felt safe, but because she realized she had no other choice. Running was no longer an option. The only way out was forward. The person behind her finally moved again. One small step, then another until he stood more clearly in the light. The audience could now see him. He looked focused, not nervous. Calm but alert. Like someone who had done this before. People in the front rows exchanged looks. Some raised their eyebrows. Others leaned closer, interested now. Whatever boredom had been building was gone. She felt a strange sense of balance return to her body. It was not confidence, but support. Just knowing she was not completely alone on that stage made a difference. Still, doubt crept in. She worried about becoming a background figure in her own moment. She worried that the crowd would only remember him and forget her fear, her courage, her choice to step onto that stage. Then she remembered why she came. This was never about being remembered by strangers. It was about proving something to herself. Her hands relaxed slightly. Her fingers stopped moving. She stood taller, even if only by a small amount. The room felt charged now. The kind of energy that comes right before something big happens. People stopped checking their phones. Conversations ended. All attention returned to the stage. She glanced sideways for the first time. Just a quick look. Their eyes did not meet, but she saw enough to feel reassured. There was no rush in his movements. No pressure. Just readiness. That look gave her courage. Not loud courage. Quiet courage. The kind that settles in your chest and reminds you that fear does not always mean danger. The crowd waited. Seconds passed, then more seconds. No one complained. No one coughed loudly. It was as if the entire room understood that breaking this moment would ruin it. She took one more deep breath. This one reached all the way down, filling her lungs properly for the first time since she walked on stage. Her thoughts slowed. The noise in her head softened. She was still nervous, but now she was present. Behind her, he adjusted his stance. A small movement, barely noticeable, but it signaled that whatever was about to happen was close. Somewhere near the back, someone whispered, "Here we go." She did not hear the words clearly, but she felt the meaning. This was no longer just her test. It was about to become a shared moment between the stage and the crowd. She steadied herself, feet planted firmly on the floor. Her shoulders dropped, her jaw unclenched. The room felt ready, and just as the tension reached its limit, the moment before action arrived. The pause ended. Something was finally about to begin. The first sound broke the silence like a spark. It was sharp and confident, filling the room faster than anyone expected. Heads lifted, eyes widened. The crowd reacted before they had time to think. She felt it in her chest more than she heard it. The sound moved through her, steady and strong, like a hand reaching out and pulling her forward. For a moment, she forgot to be afraid. Her body reacted on its own, responding to the rhythm and energy in the air. The person beside her stepped fully into motion now. His movements were bold but controlled, powerful without being reckless. There was no hesitation in him. Every action felt deliberate, as if he knew exactly where the moment was going. The audience shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward, some straightened up. The change in mood was instant. What had felt slow and uncertain just seconds earlier now felt alive. She stood there, eyes wide, heart racing again. But this time it was different. This was not panic. This was excitement mixed with disbelief. She realized she was witnessing something special, something far bigger than her fear. The sound grew louder, richer. It filled every corner of the room. People stopped whispering completely. Even those who had looked bored earlier were now fully focused on the stage. She could feel her shoulders relax as the pressure shifted away from her alone. The spotlight no longer felt like an enemy, felt shared. Her feet moved slightly, almost without permission. Just a small step at first, then another. She did not plan it. She simply followed what felt right. The crowd noticed. A few smiles appeared. Some people nodded their heads to the rhythm. Phones slowly lifted into the air as people realized this was something they wanted to remember. She glanced at the audience and saw surprise written across many faces. Some mouths were open. Some eyes shined with excitement. The doubt she had felt earlier was gone, replaced by curiosity and admiration. Her breathing matched the flow of the moment now. In and out, steady, strong. She realized she was no longer thinking about mistakes or embarrassment. She was fully present. Each second pulled her deeper into the experience. The energy on stage grew stronger. The person beside her pushed it higher, adding more intensity, more fire. It was bold and fearless, but still controlled. Felt honest, not forced. The audience responded naturally. Hands started clapping along. A few people stood without realizing they had done it. The room felt united, connected by the moment unfolding in front of them. She felt a smile slowly form on her face. Surprised her. It had been a long time since she smiled in front of so many people without trying to hide. Her movements became more confident. Still simple, still natural, but no longer stiff. She allowed herself to be part of the moment instead of fighting it. She caught her reflection in a dark surface near the stage and barely recognized herself. The nervous person who had walked out earlier felt distant now. In her place stood someone braver. The performance continued to build. Each moment added another layer of excitement. The audience stayed locked in, reacting to every shift in sound and movement. She felt a rush of emotion she was not prepared for. Pride, relief, joy, all mixed together. For the first time that night, she believed she belonged there. The person beside her moved closer now, not to take attention, but to share the space. Their timing matched. Their energy aligned. It felt natural, like two separate paths crossing at exactly the right moment. The crowd responded even louder. Applause broke out in waves, rising and falling with the performance. Cheers followed, spontaneous and genuine. She felt tears threaten to form, but she did not let them fall. Not yet. This moment was too powerful to miss. The room felt electric. The kind of feeling people talk about long after it ends. She moved with confidence now, no longer afraid of being seen. Each step felt like a small victory over every doubt she had carried before. The performance reached a strong point, holding the audience in suspense. The sound softened slightly, then grew again, creating tension that made people lean forward. She held her breath along with the crowd. Then came the burst of energy everyone had been waiting for. The reaction was immediate. Loud cheers filled the room. Applause crashed like thunder. People stood fully now, clapping without holding back. She stood in the center of it all, heart pounding, eyes wide, taking it in. This was real. This was happening. Her fear had not disappeared completely, but it no longer controlled her. It stood quietly in the background, replaced by courage. She looked out at the crowd again and felt something shift deep inside her. This moment was changing her, and the performance was not over yet. The energy in the room did not fade after that powerful burst. Instead, it settled into something deeper and stronger. The kind of feeling that makes people forget where they are and focus only on what is happening right in front of them. She could feel it in the air. It wrapped around her like warmth after a cold night. The cheers slowly softened into steady clapping, then into quiet attention again. The crowd was no longer reacting out of surprise. Now they were listening. She stood taller without thinking about it. Her body felt lighter, as if the fear she carried earlier had finally loosened its grip. Her movements were calm now, not rushed or stiff. Each step felt natural, like she was finally moving at her own pace. The person beside her continued with the same fire, but there was something different now. It was not just power. It was control. Every sound and movement felt intentional, guided by experience and instinct. The audience noticed the change. Faces that once showed shock now showed respect. Some people nodded slowly, appreciating the skill in front of them. Others watched quietly, eyes fixed, not wanting to miss even a second. She glanced at the crowd again and saw people reacting in ways she did not expect. A few wiped their eyes. Some smiled softly, as if remembering something personal. This was no longer just entertainment. It had become emotional. Her chest tightened, not from fear, but from feeling seen in a way she had never felt before. She was not hiding anymore. She was standing in the open, and the world had not fallen apart. The performance shifted into a calmer moment. The sound softened, slowing everything down. The room followed, breathing together in quiet rhythm. She felt every second stretch gently. This slower pace gave her time to reflect, even while standing in front of hundreds of eyes. She thought about how close she came to walking away earlier. How different everything would be if she had listened to that fear. She realized that courage did not arrive all at once. It grew slowly, moment by moment, step by step. The person beside her eased the energy down further, creating space. Not empty space, but meaningful space. Space for her. She understood the message without words. This was her moment too. She took a step forward, closer to the center of the stage. The lights felt warmer now, less harsh. Her heart beat steady and strong. The audience noticed immediately. A quiet ripple moved through the crowd. They sensed something important was happening. She did not rush. She let the moment come to her. Her movements were simple, honest, and unforced. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was simply being present. The response from the crowd was gentle but powerful. Soft applause, encouraging sounds, support that felt real, not forced. She felt tears finally form, and this time she did not fight them. They stayed in her eyes, shining under the lights, but they did not fall. They were not tears of sadness. They were release. The sound began to rise again, slowly building. Not explosive like before, but steady and confident. It wrapped around her like a promise. The person beside her brought the fire back, but now it blended perfectly with her calm energy. Together, the contrast created something unforgettable. The crowd responded louder this time. Cheers returned, stronger and more emotional. People stood again, some with hands over their hearts, others clapping above their heads. She felt overwhelmed, but in the best way. The fear she once felt seemed distant, like a memory from another life. She looked out at the audience and realized something important. These people were not judging her. They were supporting her. They wanted her to succeed. That realization changed everything. She allowed herself to fully step into the moment. Her movements became confident, clear, and expressive. She no longer held back. The room felt united. Strangers shared the same emotion, reacting together, breathing together. The performance reached another high point. The sound grew bold again, filling the space with strength and passion. The audience responded instantly. Applause exploded, louder than before. Cheers echoed off the walls. She felt joy rise inside her, pure and strong. She smiled openly now, no longer hiding it. For the first time in her life, standing in front of so many people did not feel terrifying. Felt right. The energy held steady, powerful but controlled. The crowd stayed engaged, hanging on every moment. She knew, deep down, that this experience would stay with her forever. Whatever happened next, this part of her story was already written. And it was beautiful. The final moments arrived quietly, almost gently, even though the room was full of energy. It was as if everyone sensed that the end was near and did not want to rush it. The sound softened again, slowing the pace and giving the moment space to breathe. She stood in the center of the stage, feeling everything at once. The warmth of the lights, the steady sound, the presence of the crowd, and the calm confidence inside her chest. It felt unreal, like stepping into a memory before it had even ended. The person beside her eased the energy down carefully, guiding the performance toward its close. There was no rush, no sudden stop. Every movement felt thoughtful, respectful of the journey that had just unfolded. The audience followed along without resistance. Clapping faded into silence again, but this time it was peaceful. No tension, no doubt, just attention. She took a slow breath and looked out at the crowd one last time. Faces were clear now, smiling, emotional, fully present. She saw people who looked inspired, moved in ways that were hard to explain. For a brief second, she remembered how she felt when she first stepped onto the stage. The shaking hands, the heavy fear, the thought that she did not belong here. That version of herself felt far away now. The sound reached its final note and held there, hanging in the air like a question waiting for an answer. Then it ended. For half a second, the room stayed completely silent. No clapping, no cheering, just stillness. And then everything exploded. Applause filled the space from every direction. People stood up all at once. Cheers rose so loud they echoed off the walls. Some people whistled. Others clapped until their hands hurt. She froze for a moment, overwhelmed by the response. Her heart raced again, but this time it was filled with joy instead of fear. She looked to the side, then back at the crowd, trying to take it all in. Felt bigger than anything she had imagined. Her eyes filled with tears again, and this time they spilled over. She did not try to stop them. She let them fall freely, knowing they were a sign of something good. The applause did not fade quickly. Stayed strong, rolling like waves. She stepped forward and gave a small, shaky bow. It was not perfect or polished, but it was honest. The crowd responded even louder. The person beside her stepped back slightly, giving her the center of the stage. The message was clear. This moment belonged to her. She stood there, hands at her sides, smiling through tears, feeling proud in a way she never had before. Eventually, the applause softened, but the warmth in the room remained. The lights dimmed just a little, signaling that it was time to leave the stage. She took one last look at the audience before turning away. She wanted to remember their faces, the feeling, the sound of their support. As she walked off stage, her legs felt light. Each step carried a sense of relief and accomplishment. Behind the curtain, the noise of the crowd became distant. The world returned to normal sounds, voices, Footsteps. Quiet conversations. She leaned against the wall and let out a long breath she felt like she had been holding for years. People approached her with kind words and warm smiles. Some thanked her. Others said she inspired them. She listened, still trying to understand that they were talking about her. She did not feel like a different person, but she felt changed. Later, when the room emptied and the night grew quiet, she stepped outside into the cool air. The sky was dark, calm, and open. She thought about how close she came to missing this moment, how easily fear could have stolen it from her. She understood something important now. Courage does not mean fear disappears. It means you move forward anyway. In the days that followed, videos of the performance spread online. People shared it, talked about it, and replayed it again and again. Strangers sent messages saying how much it meant to them. But the most important change happened quietly inside her. She stood a little taller. She spoke a little louder. She trusted herself a little more. That night on stage became a turning point. Not because of fame or attention, but because she proved something to herself. She had walked on stage nervous. She walked off stronger. And that strength stayed with her long after the lights went out.